Okay, let's do this. Today has been such a bad day. And yesterday too, but it's fine. Hello, thank you for joining me for the second episode of Sequestered. When I was thinking about doing this, I made a promise to myself that I would only record if I felt like it. I would never force myself to make a video or talk about something when I'm not feeling comfortable to talk about that. And it just so happens that both of the days that I just randomly made the footage were very difficult days in very difficult weeks. Ah, but yeah, no, I think that this is a healthy way to deal with not feeling great. Again, the topic of suicide and sexual violence will be discussed in today's video a little bit more explicitly. I just talk about it in a bit more of a confrontational way, just so you know. I did also want to say at the beginning, thank you everyone who watched the last video. Thank you for all of the lovely, lovely messages, for all of the support. It means the world to me and it gives me a sign that I should keep going because telling my story is important. Okay, so coming back to the stages of grief. By the way, I think that in the last video I said that I don't know how to pronounce his name. The model was not introduced by a man. Kubler-Ross is a woman, by the way. Although they do not have to follow that order. The first stage is denial. The denial stage was defined a lot by having trouble hearing other people say what happened. So I don't remember a lot from the hospital just because the medication was wearing off for the first couple of days after it happened. But I do have this vague memory of my nurse calling my mom. I don't remember what she said, but it was something along the lines of your daughter tried to commit suicide or your daughter tried to overdose. But I heard her say that. The reaction of my brain was like, I have to tell my mom that it's not that serious. Like, that didn't happen. Like, I didn't try to overdose. I just like took a bunch. I couldn't even find an argument for why that wasn't my intention. I was just like, but I didn't do that. Hearing someone say it just shattered my heart. And I was like, no, I would never do that. But I did though. So, the reason why today's video is called Anger, Guilt, and Staying Alive is because those three words paint a good picture of how the first month following the attempt was. I'm not even a week out of the hospital, and I have to deal with moving into a completely new space. I have to move my stuff from the apartment, not only where I lived before with my partner, but where the overdose happened. Let that sink in. I do have an eating disorder, and being hospitalized always kind of triggers that. I had kind of relapsed in the hospital. I lost a very significant amount of weight. I also think every day about the friends that I had, the relationships that I had, the shock of how one of the safest times of my life became so unsafe so quickly. Getting used to that new reality, needless to say, it was too much. Why I included staying alive. One thing that I did not expect whatsoever was the fact that this attempt would change how my brain thinks about suicide and dying. I pretty much immediately realized that this is not what I want to do. I do not want to die. I was sure of that for the entire time that I was in the hospital. When my mom came, I had this idea of progress and the healing journey kind of going like this, right? When I would get overwhelmed, I would get a panic attack. And as a result of this panic attack, I would once again be like, I want to kill myself. I can't live. I need to die. But then I would get out of that panic state and that wish would no longer be present. In about a week, this turned into having these moments where I would just be like looking in the mirror or doing something, cooking or reading, whatever. And I would get this really calm thought of it would just be easier if I wasn't here. The reason why that switch was so scary was because all of a sudden, that voice didn't come only when I was in an irrational state. It came in very normal, neutral states. Little did I know that there was level 3. I think also about a week after, it became a constant want to not be here. The sentence that would keep playing over and over and over again in my head was, I think that my life is worth living. I just wish that I wasn't the one who had to do it. Because I'm so tired. I am at the end of my strength and a capacity to keep going. And this state made me feel so trapped because I had the knowledge that I cannot do that to my family. I can't do that to the people I care for. I just can't. But I want to so badly. As I mentioned in my last video, I've had trouble with suicidal thoughts for many years, but I never experienced the wish of death to be constant. Nice things would happen, my brain would immediately go to that. Bad things would happen immediately. Nothing was happening. My brain kept going back to the fact that this is too much. And I really wish I didn't have to live. So that's why I mentioned staying alive, because that's very much what the first month felt like. That whole month, I also had an intensive home treatment. So I had a team of therapists that would take turns coming in every day to see me. Thank you, the Dutch healthcare system pulled through. That was extremely important, and I'm so insanely lucky to have been able to receive that care. There were multiple times where I called the suicide hotline or one of my doctors or my mom. There were numerous times where it reached a point where I didn't feel safe and I wasn't sure if I was going to do it again. So it's basically like living with someone who might kill you at any point. If they go a little crazy, they might kill you. And you're stuck with that person in your room all day. And of course, it was extremely helpful that I had the team of professionals to talk to about this. But of course, it didn't make it easier in the moments where I was alone. What a shitty feeling. That was probably the most difficult part because it was so all consuming. It was constant and it felt like I was constantly trying to protect myself from myself. That's how we're gonna get to guilt. From the very first day in the hospital, I felt overwhelming guilt. Dealing with the fact that you made a decision that, because it failed, seems so insanely selfish. It's just such a horrible thing to do to people close to me and people who love me. By the way, I'm not demonizing people who attempt suicide, obviously. I'm just talking about how that feels and where that guilt comes from. There was level two. There's a level two. I don't want to say that having CPTSD ruined my life. I wouldn't give them the power of saying that they ruined my life because they haven't. I've had many, many, many beautiful moments and wonderful relationships following those horrible experiences, but it is something that genuinely makes me suffer quite a bit. My sleep, my relationships, my sexuality, my relationship with my body, self harm. I've been hospitalized 2 times. I've been on medication for almost 6 years. I haven't been able to function many times in my life. My point is that I've always felt anger at the people for giving me PTSD. As long as that anger didn't become harmful to me, it was good that I had something, someone that I could be angry at. So realizing that I'm experiencing post traumatic stress as a result of something that I did, as a result of my choice, the betrayal that I felt from myself. I had this happen also with the other traumatic experiences that I dissociate a lot from the person that went through that. See, literally, example, I'm saying the person that went through that. I can't, it's too painful to identify with the person who experienced that in the moment. I very often say, I feel so sorry for that little girl when I'm talking about me experiencing abuse. I say, I'm so angry at that person who decided to take that medication because I can't identify with her. It's a way to distance myself from those versions of me that experience traumatic events. The process of identifying myself with the version of me that decided to overdose was an extremely painful process because what I felt like was like, you've spent 8 years being angry at these people saying, fuck you for giving me CPTSD, and now you're sitting here experiencing the same thing because of your decision. And this is especially important because topics of guilt, responsibility are big, big, big topics for survivors of sexual abuse. It took me years to realize that you did not seduce that man to have sex with you when you were 12. It took years to realize that no, you weren't a slut for being raped by multiple people. It might sound insane. That's just how some survivors of sexual abuse live their lives. In fact, many survivors of sexual abuse live their life not being able to fully accept the fact that no, it wasn't their fault because of the fucking fucked up world we live in. And because you still have people saying, yeah, but what were you wearing? Becoming aware of that dynamic of victim perpetrator and how that relationship works. As a survivor of sexual abuse, I'm very quick to blame things on myself. I'm very quick to say, you should have known better. The way that I would speak to myself hurts on such a deep level because all I needed in that time was to be kind to myself, basically feeling the guilt of that decision while being completely separated from the version of yourself that did it and being angry at that version and now viewing that version of yourself as the perpetrator while also viewing yourself as the victim. It's a mindfuck, genuinely. It's so complex. Even talking about it is overwhelming. The guilt of making that decision, the guilt of surviving that, and the guilt of wishing that I hadn't. And obviously, anger plays into all of this because all of a sudden, the anger that I felt for those people that have hurt me, I was feeling a similar anger towards that version of me. That was painful in itself because I knew that I had to be kind to myself and gentle with myself. So these three topics were very prominent in the first month of recovery, which I would say was the hardest. If I'm being so honest, today was not a good day for me. I hope that what I say is coherent. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this second episode of Sequestered. I appreciate all of the feedback that I've gotten so much. I'm sending all of you a big good night kiss, or a good morning kiss, or a good afternoon kiss, or a good midday. I hope that you all have a lovely day. And reminder, be kind to yourself. I hope that since the last time you've done something nice for yourself, do it again, do something new, look in the mirror and say, you're doing great. Because we all are in this big, confusing, fucked up world. We're all doing our best. Not all of us are doing our best. Some of us are doing our worst, like Trump or Netanyahu or fucking like. Have a great night. Mwah.